Hello and welcome to the 2014 Seattle Regional Championship Top 8. On your left, we have Courtney Crouch coming in at the 4th seed, playing an Aromatisse Fairies deck. And on your right, we have former Northwest Regional Champion Michael Chin with his Virizion Genesect deck. So for those of you who might be new to Pokemon or don't know how the top 8 works, there are 4 total matches going on right now that are single elimination best of 3. The winners of those matches will advance to play the other winners, and so on and so forth until there is a champion of the event. In the rest of the top 8 here, we have 2-time back-to-back regional champion Israel Sosa. We have 2011 world champion David Cohen. We have 2014 Worlds qualifier Ricky Gao. And of course, as you see here, we have local Pokédad Courtney Crouch and former Worlds qualifier, former Northwest Regional Champion Michael Chin. This is definitely a star-studded event, and it's going to be an insane top 8. If you want to see the bracket and what the decks look like, feel free to go over to facebook.com/OTP Pokemon and check that out. We have the bracket with all the decks that they're playing, and you can figure out how that works. So we see Michael going first, Plasma Balling for its second Genesect, and Professor's Lettering for 2 Grass Energy before attaching to his Virizion and passing. So that's one thing that'll happen quite a bit in the Virizion decks, is that they don't really have a play on turn 1. Their ultimate play is just attach to Virizion and pass the turn. You know, they can't attack on turn 1. They don't have a beach or anything to do like that, so they definitely just want to be Emerald Slashing as soon as possible. And when you see the Virizion decks kind of mess up is when they don't hit the turn 1 attachment on the Virizion. They open a lone Genesect or struggle for energy or something like that. When we see Courtney, he might be missing an energy. He drops a Spritzee on the bench, which is very important to his game plan. Spritzee evolves into Aromatisse, which allows him to move all of his fairy energy around the board however he likes. And of course, he runs Prism Energy and Rainbow Energy, which count as fairy when attached to Pokemon. So it basically lets him move all of his energy around however he likes. And, you know, it really helps him to be able to protect certain Pokemon that have energy on them. It makes him be able to do really big attacks and kind of save a Pokemon. You know, if a Pokemon's about to get knocked out, he can move the energy off of it and kind of save it there. And interestingly enough, we see Courtney play Hypnotoxic Laser in a Burbank City gym, which won't end up mattering too much because of Virizion's ability that makes it so that your Pokemon with Grass Energy attached can't be affected by special conditions. But as you see, because Michael had to attach the Grass to Virizion this turn, his active Genesect will be taking 30 damage and will remain poisoned until a Grass Energy gets put onto it. Unfortunately for Courtney, we have a missed energy there, and it's always what I say about these Fairies decks is that I like them a lot. I think they're very good, but they struggle with energy. You know, they don't really have any acceleration outside of Thundurus EX. You know, they're all special energy, so they have a hard time beating an Enhanced Hammer or maybe a Drifblim that discards special energy. And missing an energy there is just back-breaking for Courtney. Thankfully, Courtney is still going to be able to execute his game plan for this turn. He and I talked a little bit before the event started, and he had said that his game plan was to spread his energy out, make sure that nothing has more than 1 or 2 energy on it, and then chip away at those Genesects and chip away at those Virizions with Landorus and his Hammerhead attack, and make it so that they all have 30 on them, and then he can start attacking and doing 140. The reason why he wants to do this is because of Genesect's ability Red Signal, which when you attach a Plasma Energy from your hand to it, allows you to switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their benched Pokemon. And so you can get into a situation where if you have a bunch of energy on one Pokemon, and then Michael can just go ahead and Red Signal up, knock it out, and wipe all your energy off the board. Additionally, the reason Courtney wants to soften them up with Landorus is because he wants to make sure that he can knock them out doing 140 damage, because he can't go above 140 really without without the help of Hypnotoxic Laser, which doesn't really work when you have Virizion in play. And this is an unfortunate series of events for Michael. He was forced to attach to the Genesect because he wanted to heal his status, but he did end up getting the Sky Arrow Bridge, which wouldn't have ended up mattering. He would have been able to attach with the Genesect, attach to the Virizion EX, and then Emerald Slash this turn, which, as I said, is what every Virizion Genesect deck is looking to do.
Right,
so
Pokemon players,
that's a little bit unfortunate for Michael there, because now he's just one turn behind. Sorry, I'm going to let these announcements go through.
To run our league challenge today. So we will not be running a league challenge. At least to start off.
No league challenge today. Not enough room. We're in the Washington State Convention Center, and Pokemon fans have managed to fill it up. But as I was saying, it's a huge setback for Michael not being able to hit the turn 1 energy or turn 2 energy into the turn 2 Emerald Slash. Thankfully for Michael, Courtney also missed the turn 1 energy, as we said. So, Michael is behind, but Courtney is also behind, and Michael could catch up a lot easier than Courtney can in this spot. We do see Courtney has an energy in his hand now. It's a Rainbow, and I don't know. I don't want to overstate how big of a deal that is to Michael, because he is going to be able to recover. Thankfully, Courtney missed that first energy, but it's never where you want to be. You definitely always want to be Emerald Slashing on turn 1. And there's a Rainbow energy on the Virizion. I assume he's going to move that over to the Landorus. I think he just wanted to let his Virizion take the 1 damage from that Rainbow Energy's effect rather than the Landorus. But yep, here it comes, Hammerhead. And if Courtney is sticking to the game plan that he had spoken to me about before the event started, I think he's going to go ahead and hit the Virizion, or the Genesect on the bench with the Landorus damage, with the Hammerhead damage rather, and really start to soften it up for a bigger attack later. Still very unfortunate that Courtney has missed an energy drop. That can't be overstated, but the important thing is that he's gotten the Aromatisse out. He needs to get another Spritzee on the bench. As I said before, Red Signal is a huge game in this matchup, and he absolutely needs to get another Spritzee out to make sure that Aromatisse doesn't get knocked out, and he's cut off of the Fairy transfer ability. But it's not the worst spot to be in the world, and Michael's going to go play an end of 6, it looks like, for both players, and Courtney doing a little intricate shuffling of his deck. Courtney has also discarded a Max Potion, which I think is pretty wise in this matchup. Usually Michael's going to be wanting to use G-Booster to deal 200 to any Pokemon on Courtney's field and not really deal with damage counters all that much. Looking over the other matches in the top 8, we have 2014 Worlds Qualifier Ricky Gao playing against 2011 Masters Division World Champion David Cohen. That should be an interesting one. We've got Israel Sosa, who won regionals in back-to-back weeks this year, playing against Albertan Polkadad Simon Ford. And there's an enhanced hammer from Michael. Wow, so that's going to be huge in this matchup, clearing Courtney's board of energy. And of course, Courtney can get that energy back if he uses Thundurus EX's Raid Knuckle attack to attach it to his own Genesect on the bench, but as you can see, he doesn't have a Thundurus or a Genesect as of yet. And Michael's going to go ahead and Emerald Slash, deal 50 damage, put 2 energy on the Genesect, and Michael is so far ahead right now. Courtney can still pull it back. It's still very early in the game, but Courtney is on the back foot. There's a Darkrai EX allowing all of his Pokemon to have free retreat as long as they have a Fairy Energy attached, which, as you can see, none of them do. Darkrai EX is actually an interesting inclusion. Sorry, I'm going to let these announcements pass before I continue. We are having a league challenge now, it looks like. But Darkrai EX is actually an interesting card in this deck. I've been testing the deck a lot when Aromatisse first came out. I really like Fairy Transfer type decks, and I found that oftentimes you just don't have the bench space for Darkrai. So I know that myself and a lot of other players were going for a heavy Fairy Garden build. Fairy Garden says any Pokemon that have a Fairy Energy attached have free retreat. So it essentially does the same thing as Darkrai, but it doesn't count as a Pokemon. So there's definitely some ups and downs there, but having the extra bench space, I feel, is just super important. Courtney finds another energy, he finds the Prism, and now he's going to go ahead and spread to that Genesect with no damage on it. But he could be in trouble here. Michael does have a Colress for 7. I can't see what else. Michael has a Pokemon Catcher as well, and you know that that Pokemon Catcher will be aimed right at that Aromatisse if Michael has another energy in hand. I'd love to see Michael Pokemon Catcher the Aromatisse, promote the Genesect, do 100 to it, and just realize that Courtney really has nothing that can threaten him. He has 1 energy on board, but he's not going to be able to move around for at least another turn. Landorus is only doing 50 damage as of now. There's nothing that can really restrain it, and that's a Tails. That's huge for Courtney. That's that I already think the Courtney's on the back foot, and Michael getting heads there would have, I don't want to say sealed the game up, but would have put Courtney so far behind him. Courtney's very glad that he hit that 50-50 chance. And then we have the Callers for 7, and I think Michael here is honestly looking for a Plasma Energy. Like we said, we missed the Catcher Flip. The Catcher Flip is very important to him, but attaching a Plasma Energy with Red Signal and Red Signal with that Aromatisse does not require a flip. We see 1 Plasma Energy on board for Michael already, which means there's likely 3 left in his deck. And if he hits it here, again, it's going to be huge. Knocking out Aromatisse is priority number 1. So let's see what this draw step brings. It'll be 7 cards for Michael. And I don't think I see a Plasma Energy, unfortunately, for Michael. I see a Virizion and a Super Rod. We see the second Enhanced Hammer, which I think Michael just has to play here. There's no reason... yeah, there we go. There's the Enhanced Hammer on the Prism. I don't think there's any reason to let Courtney have that. The Landorus isn't super threatening right now, but there's no reason to just let Courtney have energy that you don't need him to have. And there's a Tool Scrapper 2 just stripping that Landorus EX Bear. And I can't quite see what the rest of Michael's cards are, but I assume we're just going to see another Emerald Slash attach. Yep. Attached to that damaged. Well, he actually has 2 interesting choices. He can attach to the damaged Virizion, or the damaged Genesect, and kind of spread around a bit, or spread his energy around a bit rather. Or he could have just gone ahead and attached to that the Genesect with only 30 damage on it, and built up a bunch of energy there, so that he can more efficiently use G Booster as time goes on. G Booster, for those of you who don't know, is a tool.
Video game players, you are playing here shortly. Video game players.
Gonna let these announcements finish again. All apologies about that.
Trading card game players who are here for the League Challenge. That is what has been delayed. It's Trading Card Game League Challenge has been delayed. But video game, oh, we're getting ready for you.
All right. So, as I was saying, G Booster is a tool that can only be attached to Genesect EX that says discard 2 energy from this Pokemon and deal 200 damage. So Michael had the opportunity there to just build up a big Genesect that can G Booster twice or 3 times in a row without too much worry, but he's decided to just spread his energy around a bit, load up 2 of them, kind of hedge his bets, make sure that nothing can really go wrong, and he's going to be able to get a G Booster off whenever he needs it. Courtney does find another energy, but things are going. He finds another energy and another Muscle Band, actually, which is pretty nice for him, but things are going pretty slow. This is definitely not the position you want to be in if you're Courtney. Having 1 energy on the field on turn 5 or whatever this is. And Courtney sticking to his game plan, spreading around the damage, but you can see the differences, the disparities in the board states. Courtney has 1 energy up. He has a bunch of techs on the bench that not even a second Spritzy. He's not really doing anything. He's just pinging for 30 every time. And Michael just has 1 Genesect EX fully loaded, 1 with 2 energy on it, a Virizion which probably will get knocked out for one more turn. Like, he just has an embarrassment of riches here, and we see an energy switch onto the Genesect EX, which is going to be huge. It signals that Michael is looking to attack with it this turn. I'm going to go ahead and play a Super Rod for 1 energy. I actually don't like that play too much. I feel like there's not really much of a reason to do that unless he is getting ready to Juniper or Professor Sycamore away his hand. I don't really see much of a reason why you would just waste your Super Rod for a single energy. Okay, there's a Sycamore, so that makes more sense. And there's 7 cards for Michael. A Plasma Energy here would be insane, as we said. Activating Red Signal, sending up that Aromatisse, getting the knockout, and putting Courtney even further behind. And there's a G-Booster. So now Michael is going to be able to G-Booster, deal 200 damage to that Landorus EX, take 2 prizes, wipe Courtney's field of efficient attackers and energy. We actually see Courtney plays 2 Darkrai EX, which is actually an interesting inclusion. As I said before, I'm not too big of a fan of that card in the deck, and so I'm very interested to see Courtney run 2 Darkrai EX, particularly when he's running techs like we saw the Zekrom from Black and White. A lot of interesting things in Courtney's deck. I don't really think 2 Darkrai is too out there, but 2 Darkrai in addition to the Zekrom that we see pulled to the front of his discard pile, and just a few other things, including basic Fairy Energy that Courtney runs, is just really interesting. As you can see on your screen, Courtney finished 6-1-1. Both of these players actually finished 6-1-1. They are the 4th and 5th seeds going into the top 8. And this match means a lot. Whoever wins this match will have a trophy. We'll be playing for, they'll have 3 boxes, I think. I think it's 3 boxes if you make top 4, 2 boxes if you make top 8, and then the winner of the event obviously gets a whole case, 6 booster boxes of X and Y. And we see an N here, and this is, if you're a big fan of my streams, whenever a player is behind, I always like to kind of talk about what they can do to get back in the game, no matter how unrealistic it is, what the steps are for them to get back in the driver's seat and actually win this game. And I think for Courtney, it definitely starts with an N. It definitely starts with putting Michael on very few cards and just trying to destroy his hand there, because Michael's board state is so built up that the only place that Courtney can really go to attack it is his hand. And there's a Verbank City Gym replacing that Sky Arrow Bridge. The Verbank City Gym is actually going to do almost nothing for Courtney. As we discussed earlier, Virizion EX's ability cuts off any poison damage anyway from Hypnotoxic Laser, so poison, sleep will not come into effect, but what it does do is it bounces that Sky Arrow Bridge out of the way, makes it so that Michael's Pokemon cannot retreat for free or 1 less, and just again, it's just another thing, just trying to tear apart Michael's advantage here. It's very little, it's very minor, but Courtney is trying everything he can to pull back into the driver's seat. Ultra Ball, discarding an Ultra Ball and a Fairy Energy for Courtney. I got to imagine that he is looking to take a Spritzy or a Thundurus EX. It looks like he has no Thundurus EX, though. Looking through his deck real quickly. Yeah, I don't think there's a Thundurus left. Courtney's got to be disappointed by that. They must be prized. I haven't seen any in the discard pile. It's also possible that Courtney is just not playing them. He's played the Plasma version before of this list, but yeah, we haven't seen Genesect either, so maybe Courtney's just not on the Plasma version. He's just playing the big basics version, which in all honesty is even worse versus Michael's deck here, because that means he has actually no energy acceleration. And as we've seen, Courtney passes without an energy drop. As we've seen, energy is very, very important to Courtney and really has been the bottleneck this game. And we see Michael start his turn. If Michael has an energy switch and an attachment, there's the first half of it. Michael also wisely bouncing that Verbank City Gym, just gaining a little bit of his advantage back. And now a Colress for 10 cards. Michael's already played Energy Switch to move his energy from, I believe, a Genesect to the active Genesect. And now he just needs to find any kind of energy more to G-Booster that Darkrai EX, take 2 prizes, and really maybe seal the game up. I mean, at that point, he's going to be running into N. That can be a problem. But but he'll be up 4 prizes. Courtney will have no energy on board, and if Michael gets a single energy here, it may just be game. I see energy in his hand. I see a Plasma and a Grassy Pokemon catcher. And I think Michael now has an interesting decision of whether he wants to just take 2 prizes here from G-boostering this Darkrai, which will get him ahead in the prize race even more, but also leave him open to an N, or just take out the Aromatisse on the bench. If I'm Michael here, I think I'm definitely going to take out an EX Pokemon this turn. With no energy on board, I don't think you care about Aromatisse at all. I don't think you even worry about it. Courtney can explode with 1 energy. You know, even if you put him on N,
video game players, our pairings are posted.
letting the announcements go by.
Our pairings are posted. Juniors, you will find your pairings on the Charmander pairing board.
And he does choose to go for the Aromatisse, which is unfortunate. I think that's a little bit of a mistake. I don't think he needs to worry about that. He's now putting himself at uneven prizes. He does save energy for a G-booster, which I think is very important, but I would have liked to have seen him just take an EX Pokemon there and kind of put game on board for Courtney. But regardless, Michael chooses to go for the Aromatisse, cuts Courtney off of really having anything, and no N from Courtney probably seals the game there for Michael. He just needs to take 2 more prizes. He can go ahead and, especially if Courtney does not have a way to, or I guess he has the Sky Arrow Bridge will allow Courtney's Spritzee to retreat, so no worries about that. And we see Courtney just sending up that Landorus. I assume he's going to try and have a Hammerhead this turn if he has an energy. He does have the level ball to get the Aromatisse out, and see that's what I mean, especially with Courtney having the ability to immediately get another Aromatisse on board. I really don't like that play from Michael there. I really would have rather have seen him just not allow Courtney to have an EX Pokemon active when he ends his turn, this past turn, and just threaten the G-booster. But obviously it was a judgment call, and we'll see what happens. I think Michael is still a very heavy favorite in this game, but Courtney does have a window of opportunity to come back. And there's the evolution into Aromatisse. There's the Prism Energy on the Landorus EX in the active position. Courtney's bench is full, just double checking there. And gotta believe we're gonna see a Hammerhead this turn. Not sure what else Courtney is really considering doing. Yeah. Going to clean up his discard pile a bit, clean up his energy. Michael taking a look at the discard pile. It's very important to both look through your own discard pile and look through your opponent's, especially in a late game where you're trying to get down and count how many Pokemon are left, count how many trainers are left, count your outs, which means basically being able to say, okay, my opponent's used all 4 of his Pokemon catchers, so I'm safe putting this Pokemon on the bench because my opponent cannot attack it, cannot knock it out. Or, hey, my opponent's used none of his Pokemon catchers and he only has 20 cards in his deck. He's definitely holding at least 1 catcher. I have to be careful and not play that Pokemon on my bench. So Michael and Courtney, both very suitable players, both very experienced players, and they're not going to let a mistake slip by them, especially not Michael when you're in a winning position like this and when you basically have the game locked up. You just need a few more turns to execute it. He's definitely going to double check and check again and make sure that nothing can go wrong. And there's the retreat from Courtney into the damaged Darkrai. He knows that an EX is going to get knocked out this turn by a G-booster anyway, so he's fine with just letting the one that's already damaged and has no energy on it get knocked out. Now the interesting thing here is that if Michael has the Pokemon catcher in his hand, if he can play that catcher, aim it at the Aromatisse, knock it out by doing 100 damage, and keeping the 3 energy that he needs for G-Booster on board, he can actually set up a checkmate position versus Courtney next turn, where Courtney only has the X's on board. I don't even think he has another Spritzy or Romantis in his deck, and Michael has all the energy he needs for G-Booster loaded up. And I would like to see Michael execute that this turn. There's the catcher. There's the head, and Michael has to do some pondering. Again, if you're Michael, I think you definitely aim at an Aromatisse, which he does. Very good choice there. There's the third energy on the other Genesect, just loading up more and more. And actually, he can retreat now to that to that bench Genesect, excuse me, and do 100 damage pretty safely. You know, keep the one with the G booster attached on the bench, make it even harder for Courtney to ever try and come back here. And I think Michael does have this game locked up now. He's skyling. I'm not sure what he's really getting. I assume he'll just get either a supporter that he can play next turn, or something that he can thin his deck with, like a town map. Yeah, definitely. I think town map is a good call there. Just something where you can play it. Doesn't really matter all that much, but it thins your deck out in case you get end next turn, which is always a fear. We see Grass Energy, Tool Scrapper, and Muscle Band prized on Michael's side.
Alright, Pokemon players.
And Michael,
professional players out there that do this a lot.
Considering 100 damage, 20 on the Landorus.
Standings first, roster, sit out, player meeting.
Michael wisely chooses to take the Grass Energy.
You're just sitting down. I gotta do a player.
Courtney's top deck is an irrelevant Hypnotoxic Laser, and I'm not sure how Courtney gets out of this.
Do not start playing.
I think if Courtney had moved the Prism Energy to the Eviltal last turn, he could have been able to promote it if he had this turn. If he has another energy in his hand, Evil Ball for the knockout. But again, because of that third energy on the bench Genesect, Michael would have been able to just completely play around that and say, hey, it's fine, knock out my Genesect without the G-Booster, not a big deal. I'll go ahead and just G-Booster you next turn. Courtney switching to his deck with an Ultra Ball, I believe. Yeah, I think the only target left is that Virizion EX, which is kind of redundant. Doesn't really do much here. Courtney counting the rest of his deck. At this point, I think if I'm Courtney, I just concede to try and save time. Fairies can be a slower deck, and I think that, the kind of the writing's on the wall, and I think that he needs to concede the match, save a little bit of time, and not let this go too long. We do have 60-minute rounds here in the top 8, as opposed to 50 minutes for Swiss, so time is less of an issue. There's a big call risk for 9. Not sure how many cards Courtney has left in his deck. He did count them before playing this call risk, so I assume that he's not going to deck himself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Not really sure what Courtney's digging for here. I don't know what outs there are. I don't know if he plays Pokemon Catcher, but even then, Michael I was going to say, even then, Michael has a Sky River Bridge, but most of these decks don't play Catcher. There's the Tool Scrapper. That gets rid of the G-Booster. That's going to be a big game. But as you see, the reason why it's not all that relevant is that Michael has that Shadow Triad in his hand. A Shadow Triad allowing you to take a Plasma card, which G-Booster is one of, and putting it back in your hand. So Michael's just going to draw for his turn, slam the Shadow Triad, slam the G-Booster, and take game 1 over Courtney Crouch. Courtney with the handshake, and Michael Chin has taken game 1 over Courtney Crouch here in the top 8 of the Seattle-Washington Regional Championships. Doesn't look like, it looks like we have one semi-finalist actually. The match between Ricky Gao and David Cohen appears to have ended. Not quite sure who's won that one yet, but I'll try and get that update for you guys. Actually, interesting discussion happened. So David Cohen is playing the Chase Maloney and Trevor Reed Team Plasma list that has gotten first, second, and third at states and regionals throughout the past couple of weeks. And Ricky Gao was playing a Trevenant Excelgor deck that plays a Silver Mirror, which allows no Plasma Pokemon to do damage to the Pokemon that Silver Mirror is attached to, and David's deck had no outs to a Silver Mirror. He has Tool Scrappers, but a Silver Mirror on a Trevenant means he can't play a Tool Scrapper, means he can't attack it with any of the Pokemon in his deck, and it's kind of looking bad for David. But unfortunately for Ricky, fortunately for David, Ricky did forget to register double colorless energies on his deck list, which will mean that he cannot stream attacks as well. You know, Excelgor's attack takes 2 colorless energy. Ricky is only going to have 6 Psychics in his deck, so he would have had trouble streaming those deck and covers. But Ricky has told me that he has advanced, so our first semi-finalist, Ricky Gao, on a streak this year. I think he's top 8'd almost every big event. He's top 4'd some of them as well. He top 8'd the Oregon Regional Championships. He top 4'd the Oregon State Championships, and now he's on his way to a top 4 at the Seattle Regional Championships. He has his world invite. He's at 507 points now, I think. So Ricky Gao just absolutely has come out this year as one of the best players in the Northwest, defeating a former world champion in David Cohen. The rest of our top 8 matches are still going strong. You know, it's pretty early into the round here, but I'll definitely keep you updated on those as they go. As always, On the Bubble is brought to you by Top Cut Central. Please check out topcutcentral.com. Buy one of the play mats you see on your screen. Help us out. You know, Top Cut Central does a lot for the game. They do a lot for us. They've brought me here to Seattle, Washington for this regionals. Next week, I'll be in Madison, Wisconsin, streaming their regionals. Should be a huge event. 14 rounds of Swiss is what's predicted, with the top 8 names like Ross Cawthon, Jason Klosinski, Kyle Sukovich. It's just going to be a star-studded, huge event. I'll be there bringing you all 14 rounds and the top 8 live from Madison, Wisconsin, right here on twitch.tv/onthebubble in 1 week. And we're off here. Courtney's going to go first. Opens an Evoltal EX and a Landorus EX on the bench. I see a level ball. So this is an interesting situation. Courtney has a level ball in hand. He's going to play it. He's going to get a Spritzee. It's his only target in his deck besides Aromatisse. But he has an Aromatisse in his deck right now. He has an Aromatisse in his hand right now, which means that he's likely going to have to play the Spritzee. Going to let these announcements finish before I continue. All apologies. Not sure how much you can hear those announcements.
Zachary Whiteside.
But
Zachary, you thought you had
as I said,
it's one of those. It got changed. We had to fix the computer. Zachary here.
As I said, level ball for Spritzee. Now, Courtney has an interesting decision where he can Juniper away his Aromatisse, which will let him draw 7 cards, you know, kind of get to go where he wants to go, but he will be discarding an Aromatisse, which is just huge. I think if I'm Courtney, I like to see him just wait here. I don't think he needs to worry about. I think he wants to guarantee the Aromatisse evolution. And that's exactly what he's going to do, it looks like. And yep, Courtney passing the turn, showing a lot of restraint there. Excellent move by Courtney. He's not digging for anything this turn. He doesn't need to slam that Juniper. He's fine to just evolve into Aromatisse next turn, look at another card of his deck when he draws, and then play the Juniper and then try and get to go places. Michael Skyling here. Checking what's through his deck. You know, it's really important to always look through your deck and check what's still in there versus what's prized. You can make decisions, especially later in the game. You can make decisions based on that. We saw Harrison Levin failing to search his prizes in 2012, and it cost him the World Championship. You know, Harrison, one of the best players in the world. Second of that World Championship was huge, but a slight mistake there maybe cost him the title.
All right. So Masters.
And as predicted, Skyla gets a Professor's Letter.
Help me out, guys. I know.
And now Michael is Ultra Balling away a Plasma Ball and a Sky Arrow Bridge.
8 rounds. And yes, you called it. That was awesome.
Gonna let these announcements finish. I'm not sure how much you can actually hear those.
All right. So
trying to talk over them, but I'm not sure how that picks up on the mics. All apologies, guys.
Top 16.
And as predicted, the Ultra Ball does get a Virizion. Now, again, Michael is executing essentially what he wants to on turn 1. Virizion on the bench. Going to attach an energy to it. Surprised that Michael ended up discarding that Sky Arrow Bridge. The Verbank doesn't really do much, but the Sky Arrow would have allowed Genesect to retreat. But maybe he has another one in his hand. Maybe he's not too concerned about it quite yet. He does have the Sky Arrow Bridge. Okay, so there's a second copy. I think if you're Michael, you definitely want to retreat there. You might think that you don't really need to. It's not that big of a deal. But the problem is twofold. A, Courtney could have a Verbank City Gym to bounce that Sky Arrow and no longer give you free retreat. Or B, Courtney could have a Hypnotoxic Laser, which could lock you in place and force you to attach a Grass Energy to heal. Obviously, attaching the Grass Energy wouldn't be the worst thing because it will allow you to undo your status conditions and then be able to retreat. But if you do that, you wouldn't be able to attach to Virizion that turn, which is, again, as we saw last game, is really what you want. And Courtney missing an energy drop? No, Courtney not missing an energy drop. He attaches a basic Fairy Energy to the Lander CX on the bench, evolves to Aromatisse, and passes the turn back.
Your job to make sure your stuff is charged. I do not have enough plugs for 400 people. I don't. Now, we will try to accommodate, and unfortunately, I will lean more towards...
We do see... So Courtney is kind of an interesting position here. He has hit a bunch of energy, but he hasn't hit any one that provides any other colors but Fairy. You see that he does have a Prism Energy in hand, and if you're wondering why he didn't attach that, it's likely a concession to Enhanced Hammer. We saw Enhanced Hammer do quite a lot of work on Courtney's field last game, and Courtney's just under the idea now that before he has to attach a special energy, he does not want to. He just wants to save it for the last possible minute, try and get value out of it before Michael's able to destroy it.
Now, anytime there's a problem, man, I hit
Courtney
you with everything I got. There's no way
just
that must be a hack Lugia, man.
Courtney letting Michael finish shuffling before making a decision, it looks like.
Okay? You're on a clock. Your game, as you guys know,
there's the Fairy transfer onto the Darkrai.
Finish your game. Then we will
there's the Max Potion again. Again, Courtney willing to use those Max Potions pretty liberally because there's not much reason to save them, because a lot of Michael's game plan revolves around having to use G-Booster to get one-hit KOs on Courtney's Pokemon.
The other part is lining your DS up, okay? It's a little different this time, especially with the judges and helping the juniors and seniors. It's almost at a cockeyed. It's that little black window you have. Line them up on each DS. And then you can't move far.
And there's a Colress for Courtney.
Close together. We're talking like, 4 to 6 inches.
6 cards brings him a Muscle Band, a Verbank City Gym, and Courtney's considering now whether he wants to Fairy transfer that Fairy off of the Darkrai onto the active Evoltali X and go for an Evil Ball. Looks like he's deciding to do just that. I'd actually would like to see, I'd like to see Courtney move all the energy over there, and then Y-Cyclone the energy back onto the Darkrai or any other Pokemon. But Courtney, while being very aggressive here, doing 140 damage to Michael's active Virizion EX, and Courtney has put himself in quite the position here, because if Michael is able to get the knockout by a G-Booster this turn, Courtney will lose all of his energy. He's already lost the Prism by an Enhanced Hammer. As we talked about, Courtney smartly waited there on the Enhanced Hammer, and there's an end. We do see the G-Booster in Michael's deck shuffling it about, but if Michael's able to hit the attachment and G-Booster this turn, he is going to be so far ahead for Courtney. Chris Clanton, local PTO, good friend of mine, making a lot of noise for the VGC players out here. All apologies for the sound interruptions. And did not see the G booster from Michael. Looks like Courtney will live another day. And there's a tool scrapper from Michael. Gonna go ahead and get rid of that muscle band on the Evoltol. And if I'm Michael here, I think that you're tempted to not have the Virizion active. I think you're tempted to not attack with it. You don't want to let it get knocked out, but I honestly think that you do want to just Emerald Slash, attach 2 energy to the other Genesect with no energy on it, and just let Courtney take that knockout, especially because Courtney, if he doesn't hit a Prism energy here, will not have a way to retreat the active Pokemon very easily, but he does. He hits the Prism and he's going to move it to the Evoltol and be able to retreat for free. But I still think Michael's fine here. You don't worry about that too much. You just want to get energy on your board, and you can afford to have a Virizion get knocked out. No big deal at all to you. Courtney going for a Skyla. Not actually sure what the Skyla's going to get. Looks like he's getting a level ball just to get another Spritzee out, but I didn't see one going through his deck. I wonder if it's prized. That would be very, very unfortunate for Courtney as well. And it looks like it is. Unless I've made a mistake in my vision, it looks like Courtney has a second Spritzee prized. Courtney going to do a thorough check here, but yeah, as you can see, he's put the level ball back and is now considering grabbing either a Tool Scrapper or a Colress. With that Skyland, that's got to be unfortunate for Courtney. Now he knows that if that Aromatisse ever gets knocked out, he's in a world of trouble. Thankfully, Michael does not yet know that. You know, Michael has no way of really knowing that Courtney Spritzee is prized. He may suspect something, but if he can just convince Michael that it's not, Michael might not aim down that Aromatisse and try and knock it out. But it's going to be a tough road if Michael does decide to do that, which we saw him very, very aggressively try and knock out that Aromatisse last game, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's his game plan here. See the Fairy Transfer on the Evoltol, allowing it to retreat via Darkrai EX's ability Dark Cloak, moving the Prism to the Landorus EX. And Courtney really wishes here that he had more non-basic Fairy energy. And there's the knockout. Hammerhead, 30 to the loaded up Genesect EX. 2 prizes for Courtney. Courtney, a very thorough, deliberate player, making sure that he never draws an extra card or takes an extra prize or takes too few prizes or, messes up damage calculations, anything like that. Courtney, very, very, very on top of his game here, which is always something I like to see as a commentator. Michael considering what to do. Not sure what's in his hand. I see a Sky Arrow Bridge, an Ultra Ball. It's possible that Michael doesn't have a supporter here. And Michael taking some time. Looks like he's considering playing a Skyla. Yeah, considering playing a Skyla. He can take a G-Booster here. We do confirm that it's not prized and knock out this Landorus, leaving Courtney without any non-basic Fairy energy, which I think is what he's going to do. I think he's also fine to do that here because Courtney is likely not presenting a threat to Michael. Actually, Courtney can present a threat to Michael if he gets another energy on board, but it has to be a Prism or a Rainbow. So I think the tension for Michael here is whether he wants to, so he will attach a G-Booster, but if he G-Boosters here, he does open up the possibility of an Evoltol, Muscle Band, Evil Ball, KO. on that Genesect. Which I think is kind of what Courtney's trying to count now. Trying to see how deep he can go. We do see the Rainbow Energy in Courtney's hand. That's one piece of the puzzle there. And Michael has no other energy on board, so if Courtney can pull this off, he can swing the game majorly. Only have 2 prizes left, with Michael having no real way to threaten Courtney. And the top deck, I believe, was a Call Risk for Courtney. He promotes the Landorus mostly because it doesn't matter. He's going to attach the Rainbow Energy to it, I assume, take a damage, and then be able to free retreat via Darkrai EX's Dark Cloak ability. And there's the Rainbow on the Darkrai. There's a Zekrom Black-White on the bench. And Courtney now doing some math. I do believe we saw him draw a Call Risk, which might be why he's considering filling his bench or not here. Trying to maximize, trying to decide between, trying to decide between whether he can afford to leave his bench space open or whether he needs to draw more cards off of this Call Risk. And Jason Chin is our second semifinalist, defeating Kabir Verji and moving on to the top 4 here. I do believe that Jason will be playing the winner of this match. And we're watching live, so congratulations to Jason Chin for advancing to the top 4 here at the Seattle Regional Championships. And there's another Eviltal. Again, I assume Courtney's just trying to load up his... And there's a Tool Scrapper on the Genesect, that's huge. And there's an N. Okay, so no Call Risk. He must not have had a Call Risk in hand. I think that was the last card in his hand. All apologies for that. So Courtney does need to hit, I believe, a Muscle Band. Yeah, Muscle Band will do it off of 4 cards, so it's not entirely likely. But stripping that stripping that G-Booster away from Michael and putting Michael at 4 cards is huge here. Courtney has fought back in this game quite a bit, and I'm really interested to see where the next few turns take us. Both players shuffling up, want to make sure you do a thorough shuffle before all your ends. Get those cards nice and randomized. There's Courtney's 4 cards. And does not look like he hit the Muscle Band. I think I see a Verbank. Maybe that's a Shauna, an Ultra Ball, and a Darkrai EX. So now Courtney's in a kind of an interesting position where he has to decide, as is the tension in this matchup a lot of the time, how much energy he's willing to commit before taking a knockout. I think that Courtney is probably safe to just move the Rainbow onto the Landorus as he's chosen to do and just Hammerhead here. Oh no, he's going to the Eviltal. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 150 damage will be on this Genesect afterwards. I'd like to see him Y Cyclone here, actually. If he can Y Cyclone the Rainbow back. I don't know, see, he has chosen to Evil Ball here, but once again, he's in a position where if Michael rips the Shadow Triad for the G-Booster and has an energy, he will be in a tough spot. That is a lot to ask for out of 5 cards. In fairness to Courtney, he might be just taking a calculated risk, saying, I don't think Michael has it. I think I can just go over the top of him here, but it is a risk that I'm not sure he needs to take. The good thing about this, though, is that if Courtney's Eviltal does live through this turn, we see an Enhanced Hammer there, getting rid of the Rainbow Energy. But if Courtney's Eviltal does live through this turn and Courtney can get another energy that can provide fighting, all he'll need to do is Hammerhead for the knockout here. Even if Michael retreats to the bench or anything of that sort, he can just Hammerhead onto the bench, onto the Genesect on the bench or in the active position, knock it out, take 2 prizes, and maybe get back into this game. He put him at 2 prizes. Michael drawing 7 cards off of this call race here is going to be pretty big. I think if you're I was going to say I think if you're Michael, you maybe want to attack with Vrizian this turn, but I'm really not sure at this point because, again, any action that ends in retreating that Genesect EX opens the opportunity for Courtney to not only hit that Genesect EX and takes damage, but also deal damage to whatever Pokemon you happen to have energy onto. So, if Courtney were to retreat here, attach an energy switch to Vrizian, and then Emerald Slash onto the non-damaged Genesect EX, that would be fine, but it would still provide Courtney the kind of free knockout. An attachment on that Vrizian seems like what Courtney might want to be, or it seems like that might be Michael's plan. Taking a look through his cards, making some considerations. If he can attack with Emerald Slash this turn, he definitely does not want to retreat here. I just think he wants to pass the turn and let the Genesect get knocked out without any other tricks. He does have a Pokemon catcher, which I could see him playing just to kind of keep a Pokemon in the active position that Courtney doesn't want there, as long as Courtney does not draw an energy that provides dark. And you see Michael really debating over this attack here, over this play here, and he does choose to retreat to Vrizian. What this does do for Michael is it makes Courtney in a position where he has to find a Rainbow Energy, and then he has to commit to the Landorus EX Hammerhead attack. Courtney does find the Rainbow. I think that was off the top. Juniper's away a Darkrai EX and an Ultra Ball. And Courtney is certainly making this a game. Can't see what's in his hand off of the Juniper. But if he can move the Rainbow, retreat to the Landorus, Fairy Transfer the Rainbow onto the Landorus, he can get the knockout, go into 2 prizes, and maybe put Michael in a poor position here. He has chosen to retreat to the Darkrai. Which I think that might be a mistake on Courtney's part. He might not realize that he can't Night Spear this turn. Courtney just spreading his energy out there, but I'm really not sure if I like this. I don't know if it was a mistake by Courtney, if there's just something I'm not considering, but I really don't like that play. I guess he's just preparing for the Night Spear next turn, but that's assuming that Rainbow Energy does not get destroyed doing an Enhanced Hammer, and that's assuming that Michael doesn't really have anything else here. And even if everything goes right for Courtney, I think the bigger issue with that play is allowing Michael to load up that Vrizian EX to Emerald Slash energy onto the Genesect EX and kind of get his board back in a stable place before Courtney has even taken any knockouts. So interesting turn of events there. I would have liked to see a Hammerhead, but Courtney's been playing this deck for weeks and weeks, ever since the cards came out in the X and Y set, really. So maybe he knows more than me, and maybe he has a trick up his sleeve. I'll certainly be interested to see. There's the energy switch. And I think Michael does want to attach this Muscle Band here. The Muscle Band will allow Vrizian EX's Emerald Slash attack to do 70 damage, which will bring that Darkrai up to 80 total damage, which will leave it only 100 damage away from getting knocked out, which is the perfect number for Genesect EX and his Megalo Cannon attack. Michael does attach the Muscle Band, I believe. No, it does not. Just taking a look through Courtney's discard pile. But then he does decide to attach it. And looks like he's about to attack, but he's just looking through his discard pile very quickly first. And there's the Emerald Slash. I think Michael, looking through his discard pile there, was just make sure that he had enough grass energy in his deck. That can often be a problem with these Vrizian Genesect decks, is that they run out of grass energy so quick from having to discard it. And Michael, with finding no energy off that Emerald Slash, Wow, Michael is completely out of energy. This is going to be huge. I do think there was a slight mistake on Courtney's part, not taking out that not taking out the Genesect with Hammerhead now. But I'm afraid that it may not be too relevant if Michael cannot find enough energy to load up another Genesect EX. Quite the turn of events here. And there's a muscle band on Courtney's side. And Michael has got to be feeling just devastated here. He's really let Courtney... Not that he's let Courtney set up, but Courtney has definitely pulled back into this game. And it looks like we might go to a game 3. You know, Courtney looks to be in a winning position here. And Michael, I know Michael considered this a good matchup. And it may still be. You know, we still have this game and the rest of game 3 to figure it out. But Michael definitely on the back foot here. You can tell he's not happy. His body language seems to be pretty disappointed. Courtney moving all of his energy onto that Landorus. And wow, Courtney actually choosing to Land's Judgment with that Landorus, going down to 2 prizes and kind of putting Michael in a position where he's saying that Genesect is damaged. I'm going to knock it out eventually. If I find one more fighting energy, one more rainbow, one more prism energy, I'm going to be able to hammerhead it into oblivion for the game. Michael taking you can see Michael didn't expect that. I don't think he's kind of frantically looking through Courtney's discard pile, trying to figure out what he can do. A max potion here for Michael would be huge, and Michael just chooses to concede. Courtney Crouch ties this top 8 match 1-1 here in Seattle, Washington. Incredible turn of events there. Courtney, I think it's a bad matchup for him. He thinks it's sort of a bad matchup. Michael thinks it's a positive matchup for himself, but Courtney ties up after a pretty one-sided game 1. Wins game 2 to tie the match, and we will be going to a game 3. Wow, very, very well played by both players. I think maybe Courtney sending up that Darkrai the turn before was kind of a concession to the fact that he wanted to do the land judgment play and kind of wanted to put Michael in a checkmate position and didn't want to risk anything bad happening as far as energy going anywhere and, Michael exploding with a knockout. I still think it was probably a mistake, but definitely interesting to see how that game turned out. And obviously, scoreboard, right? Courtney Crouch has tied up the match, and you can tell Michael does not seem to be happy. Courtney, on the other hand, looks very happy. The rest of our top 8 is still playing out. Simon Ford from Alberta, Canada, playing against Israel Sosa, 2-time regional champion Israel Sosa. Simon's playing a Trevenant Excelgor deck, opposite Israel's Darkrai Evil Tall deck. And it looks like, my mistake, Jason Shin and Kabir Verji are still playing. I think I was told Kabir lost, but I think he might have just lost game 1. Was what I was being told today. So Kabir Verji, still very live in this tournament. I'll keep you guys updated on how the rest of the top 8 turns out. Once again, Ricky Gao has defeated 2011 world champion David Cohen to move on to the semifinals here in the Seattle, Washington Regional Championship. We are watching Courtney Crouch and his Aromatisse Big Basics Fairies deck take on former Northwest Regional champion Michael Chin and his Virizion EX Genesect EX deck. And Michael will get the opportunity to go first. I do see a Virizion EX and a Grass Energy in his hand. I don't see any supporter besides a Shadow Triad, which is unfortunate for Michael, but he also has an Ultra Ball, which will allow him to get a Genesect EX. And this draw is going to be pretty important. Michael top decks the N. I think Michael's line of play here is just attached to Virizion, Ultra Ball. I'm not sure, probably a Tool Scrapper and an Energy. Looks like that's what Michael's deciding on for a Genesect EX. And then just play the N. The interesting thing here that I've talked about a little bit on this stream, if you've been watching the rest of Seattle Regionals, is that You know, I am a big proponent of holding supporters when you can. I think that too many players right now play supporters every turn and play them when they don't need stuff. And although Courtney definitely could play the end here, and I wouldn't really fault him. Or sorry, Michael could definitely play the end here, and I wouldn't really fault him for it. I do think he's also fine to hold it and just wait until next turn. Courtney looks pretty excited to be end there. Maybe had a slightly bad hand. And yeah, so as I was saying, Michael could just hold the end there, not play it, pass, and that would both A, conserve resources for him, and B, kind of maybe fake Courtney into thinking that he has a bad hand, and maybe Courtney doesn't want to play an end of his own. Maybe Courtney would play a Juniper there, discarding an end and kind of waste resources because he's so afraid of ending Michael into a better hand than he had. But he has decided to play the end. And Michael's not really digging for much here. I think he would probably like another Genesect, I guess. But as I said, he can't really do much on turn 1. So I think we're going to see a town map and a pass. And then Michael excitedly playing that town map. Flipping over Genesect EX, Grass Energy, Energy Switch, and Grass Energy, and one other card that I can't quite tell because of the glare. All apologies for that glare. We'll get that fixed. Michael just ships the turn back. Prism Energy was the top deck for Courtney, immediately attaching that to his Evil Tall EX, along with a Muscle Band and Ultra Ball. And you got to believe this Ultra Ball is going to find a Spritzy. You know, Courtney's game plan, again, revolves around getting that Spritzy out as soon as possible, keeping it on the board. Courtney finds the Spritzy immediately in his deck, is going to go ahead and look through the rest of it, make sure that everything is there. We do see the second Spritzy. That was a potential problem for Courtney last game. He only had one Spritzy in his deck. But as we saw, Courtney was able to win that game. It didn't really matter. Michael never had the opportunity to knock out the Aromatisse on Courtney's bench. And both these players starting off in fine positions. You know, Courtney attaches a Prism Energy, has an Aromatisse on his bench turn 1, and it's basically fine. He'd like to have that Landorus EX active, I think. He'd like to start attacking as soon as possible, but at this point he's had just basically as good of a setup as you can ask for. And same with Michael. You know, he has a town map, he knows what his prizes are. He started with Verzine EX, was immediately able to attach a Grass Energy to it, has Genesect EX on the bench ready to get Emerald slashed onto, and isn't really worrying about much. This end can bring a few things for Courtney. He's definitely going to be looking for a second Spritzy. The Spritzy isn't really in any danger right now, but if Courtney draws it, I'd like to see him just play it and hope to build up to Aromatisse on the bench.
Of course, my seniors and juniors are smaller.
And Courtney has drawn some amount of Pokemon, excuse me. Can't quite see which ones they are, but it looks like he's considering which ones, if any, to play under the bench. The only reason why Courtney wouldn't really want to play Pokemon under the bench is A, because Michael could have a call risk and it could load up Michael's call risk and let him draw many more cards, and B, because Courtney's bench is definitely an important resource for him, as we spoke about earlier. He doesn't want to play too many Darkrai's or too many Spritzys, and there's an Enhanced Hammer. Wow, and not be able to load up his bench with other things he might need, like a Verizine EX. And the Enhanced Hammer, again, playing such a pivotal role in this matchup, discarding the only energy that Courtney has on board. And I don't even think Courtney has another energy in hand. He does have supporters in his hand. I see a Skyla at the very least, so hopefully he'll be able to draw into some energy next turn. I think that's 2 Skylas in his hand, actually, so there's a good chance that Courtney might not be able to have an energy next turn. Michael asking Courtney how many cards are in his hand, likely considering taking an N off of that Skyla. And almost taking the N there. There's the N, okay. And Michael just needs to Emerald Slash here, and he'll be pretty far ahead in this game. You see that Courtney kept the Verbank City Gym in his hand and did not play it, because as we talked about before, it doesn't really matter too much with Verzine EX's ability making it so that none of your Pokemon that have grass energy attached can be affected by special conditions. So on Courtney's side of the field, you know, that Furbank and that Hypnotoxic Laser are not too relevant, but what they will do, what they are good for, is replacing Michael's own Sky Arrow bridges. So in that respect, Courtney kind of wants to let Michael make the first move and play a Sky Arrow of his own, and then have Courtney, you know, maybe he can make plans around it, and then have Courtney just replace it immediately. And there's a Skyla for Courtney. Must have been the only card in his hand, or must have been the only supporter in his hand, rather. You gotta believe she's taking either a Juniper or a Colress with it. You know, all the times when you have no supporters in hand and you have a Skyla, you're slowed down a little bit, but you're still fine because you're going to go ahead and take a supporter here and be prepared for next turn. Especially as there's no way for Courtney to search out special energy. There's no card in the format that does that. He's not too concerned with anything else, and as you see, the supporter is going to be his pick for his Skyla card. And I didn't see any energy in Courtney's hand. I believe the top deck was an Aromatisse, so if I'm correct, it looks like Courtney will just pass the turn back, and every turn he gives Michael is just going to be huge. And Michael has the knockout on the Aromatisse this turn. Courtney with no Aromatisse, with no Spritzy or Aromatisse in play other than this one, which is about to get knocked out. And wow, that's just going to be devastating for Courtney. It's actually, you know, it's actually not the worst right now. It could be a lot worse. Courtney could be in a position where he has a bunch of energy spread out, and now, you know, they're kind of in awkward places and he can't really get them back. Courtney has no energy, which is obviously not where you want to be, but at least he hasn't committed energy in the wrong places before getting Aromatisse knocked out. It's obviously going to put him behind here because, you know, Aromatisse is his main card and he's going to need to devote resources both to getting it out and getting energy on the field, but there's certainly worse positions for him to be in. And I think we're going to see a Megalo Cannon here. I'd like to see... Yeah, there's a Megalo Cannon. I was going to say I'd like to see the damage go to that Evoltal EX, which Michael correctly chooses. And Courtney in a really rough spot. Looks like Michael's going to go ahead and take a Grass Energy from his prizes. Nope, goes ahead and takes a Genesect EX from his prizes, leaving the 2 Grass Energy there. He already has 2 Grass... or 3 Grass on board. I guess 4 Grass on board because of the Virizion EXs, as well as the Professor's Letter in his hand to be able to search out the other Grass he might need, so don't think he's too concerned about that. And Courtney doing his best to recover. There's a Spritzy on the bench along with a Zekrom, and he's going to go ahead and Colress for 7. I think Courtney was considering playing another basic Pokemon onto his bench, and of course the reason he wouldn't do that is because he wants to make sure that that Darkrai EX is able to fit on the bench to activate his Dark Cloak ability, which allows all of Courtney's Pokemon with Dark Energy attached to free retreat. And there's the Darkrai we spoke of in Courtney's hand. I gotta imagine that's hitting the field. Unless Courtney has a 3rd Spritzy he can play, I think he might play that over the Darkrai. And there's a Max Potion. Pretty big Max Potion there, healing the Evoltal EX. Kind of disrupting Michael's game plan, erasing the 20 damage he did last turn. And it looks like Courtney is preparing for a Hammerhead. You know, Courtney definitely in a rough position here, but he has done everything he can to recover, I think. You know, he has another Spritzy on board, he found a Prism Energy, and he's definitely trying. You know, he's playing to his outs. He's getting to where he wants to go, but it might just be too little, especially as Michael has that Pokemon catcher in his hand. Which, if I'm Michael, I definitely play it. I definitely aim it right at that Spritzy, and he gets the heads. Wow. So, in addition to knocking out a Spritzy, which, as we've talked about this entire match, is Courtney's most important Pokemon, the bigger thing that's going to be able to happen here is that Michael is going to go back down to even prizes, so he's only going to need 2 EX knockouts to win the game after this. Even better is that if Michael wants to, he can go ahead and retreat that Genesect EX for free off of Sky Arrow Bridge, go into Virizion EX, and then Emerald Slash, get the knockout on Spritzy, load up another one of his Pokemon on the bench with energy and just leave the attacker that he doesn't care about, i.e. Virizion, active in case Courtney can pull anything off. Michael does Professor Layer there for only a single energy, which isn't, I'm not really sure what that signals to me. It signals to me that he probably only has 1 left in his deck, but it also could signal that he has 3 left in his deck and is leaving 2 in there for the Emerald Slash. But if we count the energy on his board, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, plus 1 in his hand, that equals 8. And that could be all of them. I'm not sure exactly what Michael's list looks like. Junior and senior VGC players getting pretty excited. Not sure if you can hear that over the mic. I'm not exactly sure what Michael's list looks like, but most of these decks are playing 8 to 10 energy. And Michael is wisely choosing to Emerald Slash there. And he does find 2 more energies. So yeah, he's playing the full 10, attaching them to the Virizion, and now attaching it to that Genesect EX. And now Michael is absolutely in the driver's seat. He's going to go into 4 prizes. He has 2 fully loaded Genesect EX. And it's going to be very difficult for Courtney to come back here. I think he can still do it. He's definitely not 100% out of the game. He has some outs. We saw him turn the game around last game. We've seen a lot of comebacks during this tournament, so don't want to count Courtney out yet, especially as he has a Skylift or a Super Rod now, but he is going to be slowly recovering, and it's going to be pretty difficult for him. I actually don't like that attachment on the Landorus EX there. I think that he knows that it's very susceptible to a G booster this turn, especially as he is not playing a Skyla to disrupt Michael's hand, and I really don't like just giving up a free energy basically if Michael is able to take the knockout here. Courtney putting the Spritzy and Aromatisse back in his deck via Super Rod. And if he has a way to search that Spritzy out, that would be pretty huge here if he can get one on board this turn. He's already used his Skyla to find the Super Rod. You see Courtney's supporter for the turn is shown sideways in his discard pile. It's kind of how he shows that. We've seen Ultra Ball for the Spritzy, so great. So he's going to be able to get the Spritzy out this turn. And again, I think Courtney's really on the back foot here, but he's doing everything that he needs to come back and maybe win this game. If Michael has a G booster here, it's going to be huge. It's going to wipe Courtney's board of energy and make it very, very difficult for Courtney to come back. But if Michael doesn't and Courtney can get the Aromatisse next turn, it could be a big game. And we see Michael attaching a Grass Energy to that Genesect, signaling that he will not be able to use Red Signal this turn to knock out that Spritzy. Looks like Michael asked if he could take that back there, but Courtney no sir. I mean, this is the catcher in hand for the Spritzy, but yeah, Michael, I think pretty wisely choosing not to use the catcher there. He has a Skyla for the G booster, and he's in a position now where he can attach the G booster Genesect, retreat, use it this turn to knock out that Landorus and wipe Courtney's board of energy, and then use it next turn to take 2 more prizes on anything and really seal up the game. And that's exactly what Michael's doing. Courtney is going to need to find a Tool Scrapper and quick. And there's the knockout. 200 damage to that Landorus EX. Taking the Skyla and the Grass Energy. Very important picks there, I think, from Michael's prizes. I think he wants the Grass Energy just because he wants energy in his deck more than anything right now, and he wants the Skyla to be able to find a Shadow Triad should Courtney hit the Tool Scrapper to put that G booster in the discard pile. And Courtney does find the Tool Scrapper. That is key. I'm not sure if Michael has the Shadow Triad in hand. Obviously, having to play Juniper there instead of the N was unfortunate for Courtney, but drawing the Tool Scrapper, exactly what he wants to see here. He's still definitely behind, but looks like he's going to go ahead and Hammerhead 60, put 30 and 30 to the active Genesect, 30 to one on the bench. Michael is attaching. I don't think he wants to Red Signal there. And there's a Shadow Triad for the G-Booster. Michael Chin has advanced to the semifinals here in the Seattle-Washington Regional Championship. Congratulations to Courtney Crouch for making it this far. Congratulations to Michael Chin for advancing to the semifinals. We will be here all day streaming the semifinals and the finals of the Seattle-Washington Regional Championship. I am Kenny Wisdom. Thank you for watching, and we'll be right back.